Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we're going to be talking about England in the West Indies. They're in Barbados. They're doing pretty well. They've gone from one person who can bat to like four players who can bat in the West Indies if the pitch is flat. I think we should also cover a little bit of Pakistan v Australia or Babarism.
Yep.
Playing Australia as
Don't forget Mohammed Rizwan.
Yeah, sure. I'm Jack Hope. I am joined here by Max Rowe Brown. How are you doing, Max Rowe Brown?
I'm good. Yeah. Enjoyed some good cricket today. All across the globe.
All across the globe.
Global cricket.
It was, yeah. It was a day of global cricket. Max, before we get into the global cricket conversation, what are the messages that we need to pass on to our listeners?
Follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Like and subscribe to this video and click the bell icon to keep in touch with us and all the live streams that we'll be doing about cricket, England, West Indies, and then the IPL is fast approaching, so there'll be lots of content coming out for that. So yes, get involved and get following on YouTube to keep up to speed with that. And we are sponsored by Serious Cricket, UK-based cricket equipment sellers, purveyors, whatever you want to call it. We get our team kit from there, and they sell a whole range of cricket equipment, which you can get 10% off with the code TCP22. It's sunny outside tomorrow in London for the rest of the week. It's perfect to go and have a little outdoor net.
Yep.
Jack went and had a little bowl around the corner from his house at lunchtime the other day. It's cricket fever. So go and buy yourself some kit.
It's perfect weather. 13 degrees. That's exactly what you want. Did you know, Max, my first pair of gloves I had for 14 years?
I did not know that. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
What was that, from the age of like 9 till...
I think 11 to 25. Might have been 26 actually. I had the same pair of gloves, and they had big holes in, and so I had to keep buying.
Yeah, I'd imagine they would.
Yeah, because the leather in the grip rotted. Don't do that. Go to seriouscricket.co.uk, TCP22, and buy some gloves. Don't be like Jack. Be like Steve Smith, and buy two pairs. I'm on Patreon. Did you mention Patreon?
I did not mention Patreon.
Patreon. It's at the top of the screen if you're on YouTube. It's in the show notes. This is all in the show notes. Click the links as well, because that's what they're there for. Go and click all the links now. Give us some money. Buy yourself some new gloves. Enjoy the sun. Let's talk cricket. Max, England in the sun in Barbados. Sun drenched. Sun blessed. They scored runs.
Kissed.
Did they score runs? They did score runs.
Runs were scored. Runs were scored by mainly two people. But the story of the day was, sadly, as it often is, about the pitch, wasn't it? Because what was everybody saying? Everyone was complaining about Antigua. It wasn't a wicket pitch. It was slow. It was too easy to bat on. There wasn't enough in it for the bowlers. But it's fine. We're off to Barbados. We're off to Bridgetown. There's going to be more life in it. There hasn't been a draw since 2011 or something, when it was just rained off. England haven't won here since 2004. It's going to be wickets. It's going to be quick. It's going to be great. It was not quick, and there were not wickets. It bounced about an inch higher than Antigua, maybe a bit at the start. There was less swing than there was at Antigua, and it was, aside from Zach Crawley failing to leave the ball, very, very innocuous. Alex Lees embodied innocuousness with his 30 off 138 balls. Outdoing even Joe Denley and Dom Sibley in terms of the fewest runs scored off 100 balls. So excellent work from him to cement his place at the top of England's order. But it didn't matter, because once he had finally gone, missing a straight ball from Virasamy Permaul, Joe Root and Dan Lawrence got together and accelerated England on to a slightly more respectable number of runs from 90 overs in a day of cricket. England ended on 244 for 3, the only blemish on their copybook being Dan Lawrence out last ball of the day, when he was looking so well set for the easiest of tons. But no, his wait for a maiden test century goes on. Holder getting him last week of the day, caught Brathwaite. But ultimately, Jack, a very pleasing day's work for England, you'd have to say.
Yeah, I'd say that. It's there's a lot of Champions League football going on at the moment, isn't there? If we go back a year and you remember away goals,
Mm.
used to be a thing. They cancelled them now, which I think is a shame because in football, we very rarely had a situation where you could go from losing to winning with one goal. It only happened in Europe, and that was a nice touch. Now you have to score 2 goals if to go from losing to winning. It's purer in a sense,
That's how
but
football generally works.
but I did like the away goals rule. It feels a bit like England have got. They've got an opponent who aren't that special. They've got to go away in the first leg. After the first leg, they're 1-0 up. It's not over, but they're in a good position. They've got the away goal. The other team really gonna have to come out and play some football back in England. That doesn't work going into day 2, does
Doesn't
it? But
Back in England's
that's what it
home
feels
day.
like. The first thing to address, let's do this chronologically. There weren't that many talking points really, so it probably won't be too long a show. Let's do this chronologically, and we're gonna use a question here to segue into this. This is from Paul Griffiths, friend of the show. Paintsfield Gardens, Paul. He says lots of criticism on TalkSport for Lees on my drive home whilst he was batting. Surely we want someone like that to do the donkey work, which allows this evening's post-tea fun with Root and Lawrence discuss. Well, I suppose the story of the first session was about the hard yards, I think, wasn't it? England didn't even reach 50 by lunch, but they had only lost 1 wicket. It was stability at its maximum, or as stable as England ever are, really. At lunch,
stable.
but they had sacrificed basically any attacking intent to do that. Where do you sit on the continuum here between, oh fuck, we're 25 for 5 again, and and can we please drop Dom Sibley? What do you think?
So I mean, in terms of the context of today, what I would say is I would give Alex Lees the benefit of the doubt to start with. I mean, in terms of the first session, Joe Root wasn't exactly scoring fluently. That was, clearly England being trying to be solid in defence, try and see off that period where it could be a bit tricky with the new ball. There was a bit of swing, and as it was more evident as the day went on, it did less and less and was much easier to score runs. So making sure you get through that session bit of the game is absolutely fine. What I would be slightly concerned about was the inability that Alex Lees seems to have to kick on from there, particularly as we got sort of halfway through into the second session. There was no real sign of even intent, I guess,
No.
to kick on from there. Like, they played the odd attacking shot, but even then it was sort of a half-hearted cut that was easily dealt with by having a couple of guys at point. There wasn't really any way there was no nerdling or maneuvering of the scoreboard, was there? It was a lot of dot balls. And when it eventually fell and Dan Lawrence came in, it was almost immediate, the turnaround in the way England went about things, which suggests to me that maybe there was a slight problem there. But to start with, absolutely fine, see things out. It wasn't great to watch, but it gave England a platform. Problem is, you do actually need to score runs. We were at a point where we were about 45 overs, 50 overs into the game, and England hadn't got to 100 runs yet. And by that point, you're closer to the second new ball than you are further from the first new ball, and you haven't really made any headway. And that was where the problem comes in for me.
I'd agree with that. I think we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that the main currency in cricket is runs.
Yeah.
And if you don't score any of those and you're a batter, then you're not really worth your place. Now, it is preferable, obviously, to have a guy who can last 100 balls and wear out the new ball, wear out the bowlers a little bit, maybe make it easier for Dan Lawrence to come in later in the day. But that's a thing that is very difficult to do consistently. Most innings in cricket, even if you're good, don't last that long. It's the inability to cash in at any point that really sort of worried me about Leeds today. There was a spell.
I didn't see any punishing of the bad ball.
That's it. Yeah, there was a spell I think just before lunch where he was on 16 at lunch and he'd faced I think exactly 15 overs worth of deliveries. So yeah, it was hard. It was the hardest part of the day. But there was a spell just before lunch where Jason Holder just bowled him 5 half volleys outside off stump. He left every single one of them. And it was kind of like, well, if you're not going to hit that, what is it that you are going to hit? Because they're not. If he's just simply 2.0 and the only thing he can really do is flick it off his hips or something like that, well, the West Indies have already cottoned onto that. So that he's just not going to score, and eventually you'll get one that shoots a little bit, or or Roach will get you out. It's a pretty uphill task. So I'm not sold on Lees. I mean, obviously he'll feel very happy with himself. If he did this on the reg, then it would be good. But I don't know, a strike rate of 21. I don't think to be honest, a part of this, I mean, I can acknowledge it was an okay innings. It has added value. It probably did make Dan Lawrence's job easier. It did make Root's job easier. It was very hard work to sit through. And I don't know if it made it that much easier. If he'd got 30 or 50 balls, for example, would England now be 250 for 7? I don't think so.
I doubt it.
Yeah,
no.
I think it was a pretty easy pitch most of the day. And I don't know, maybe left a few runs out there. Let's give it a 6 out of 10. It was fine. Joe Root's good. That's the second topic.
Yeah. We saw? There were a few stats that came up on the coverage.
How many more stats can there be for Joe Root?
Well,
surely he's completed stats.
Yeah, well, his weakness in terms of averages against types of bowling faced is left arm seam, averaging a paltry 43.29 against that kind of bowling.
That is quite bad.
That's not too bad, isn't it? When your weakness is averaging over 40, that's quite good. And they also showed the averages he has against like the countries, and actually his lowest averages are against Bangladesh and Ireland. So he's not even like he's the reverse Sangakkara. He's not even doesn't even punish the the also rans. He's there. He's good. Yeah, Joe Root's really good at cricket.
Okay,
I suppose you could talk about the bit where he was nearly out.
Yeah, if you want to.
A couple of occasions.
Go on
then. So there was the first one was the
strangle down the leg side.
Well, there was the before that there was the
the
one where it hit the pad.
That bounced.
Yeah, I don't think did it not carry. I didn't. Yeah, I wasn't sure it was carried.
I'm on the didn't.
I'm surprised it didn't. Surprised they didn't go up for it though, because two clear sounds, possible, worth a look, but the drop by De Silva, tough chance though. But when it's a guy like Joe Root, you need to take everything you can get, don't you? That's the problem when it comes to guys like him. Marnus is the king of being dropped and going on to make runs. Joe Root's learning the trade.
Marnus is also the king of being run out and running people out. He's the king of a few things.
Joe Root gave that a go today.
Yeah, they did. They weren't. The running was unconvincing. That's his second century of the year. What's he up to now?
Second in 2 innings, wasn't it?
What's he up to now in runs for the year? 300-400? No, maybe he'll have another tilt at his record.
No, he's on. He's just approaching.
It is good. I mean, like
9,850 runs ish, I think, at the moment. So there's a chance he'll be on 10,000 by the end of the series. His average is approaching 50.
Say what you want about England over the last 2 years. The Joe Root journey has been quite fun to be on. It has been exciting watching him just sort of plunder records left, right, and centre, dominate bowling attacks. Asterisk, not Australia. And it's long may that continue.
Don't you remember when we were supposed to drop him?
England were.
Yeah, because he wasn't converting enough 50s to 100s.
I don't remember. When was this?
And he was having a fallow period where he averaged 40 for the.
Was this the 2019 bad days?
Yeah.
Well,
back when he was still England's best batsman, just not as good.
Well, there was that little bit where Stokes challenged him. Yeah, so Root's good. Dan Lawrence, he fell right at the end of the day, caught in the covers. He'd been dropped earlier by Alzari Joseph, who for some reason was a third slip. What did you make of Dan Lawrence? Max, was it good? Was it a bit easy? Were you
Uh,
disappointed to see him fail? Were you happy that he failed because you don't like people? You don't like
I
joy.
hate people. I hate people succeeding. He's in there instead of Ollie Pope. I'm glad he failed. No, it's a shame for him that he didn't make it to 100 because he deserved, maybe, probably should have got there from where he was. Let's face it, the easiest. He had the easiest of conditions today, but what was good about his innings was how he put the impetus into it. From the moment he got to the crease, basically, and lifted Joe Root along with it. He was intent from the start. He was getting bat on ball, trying to push around, knock the singles, and impose himself on the bowlers, which he did very well. And West Indies bowling attack struggled really to come up with a way to do anything about it. They tried some weird bodyline stuff, which was as ineffectual as you could imagine it might be on a sponge. And he lifted Joe Root's innings and he batted quickly himself. I mean, he struck at a strike rate of 60. So big plaudits for him today, I think. And just, like I said, the only shame for him will be not getting that milestone, but he did an excellent job.
For sure. I think as well, it's been a while when an England batter that isn't Joe Root has made hay when the going has been good. It was nice to watch a period of cricket as an England fan. I'm not a huge England fan, but as I probably support England in cricket, don't I? It was nice to watch like a session or two of cricket where England were just batting and on top and making the bowling look pretty average, making the conditions look as easy as they were, scoring at a reasonable rate, setting themselves up to probably bat West Indies out of the game or give themselves an opportunity to bat West Indies out of the game. That hasn't happened for ages. There were games there was a game in the India series away in India where Dom Sibley batted all day with Joe Root, and then I
What was the
can't.
last time? Was that Crawley scoring 267?
I think you probably have to go back to then. Root got a load of runs in Sri Lanka, but it was very much a one-man band type thing, wasn't it? He'd get 200 at one end, and everyone would get sort of 30 around him. Yeah. So it's that. I think there's basically been one day of cricket that I can recall, and Milan at the Ashes, I suppose. But England was so out of the game in those situations that it didn't really count. Or it doesn't count in my book. This is England, choosing to bat, getting ahead, getting themselves in, and then sort of accelerating and putting the opposition under real pressure. And it was impressive. And Dan Lawrence played a big part in that. I think probably is the new golden boy. Move over, Pope. Larry's in town. There is a question the other question, I suppose, about the day. Raj posed it in the chat, and John Matthews on Twitter said, how much are we learning about the reset given the playing conditions? Now, I do think that we probably should acknowledge that the playing conditions are making a difference here. Raj asked, are England good now? I think the jury is very much out on the England. Good question. But I think we're learning. I don't know. What do you think we're learning?
I don't think we're learning a huge amount, I have to be honest. I mean, what we saw Virasamy Pamal bowl 22 overs today and not look like. I mean, I don't know how Alex Lees managed to be out to that delivery. There was nothing threatening about that. There was no jeopardy in it today. There was very little to say, England have turned a corner with their batting or anything like that. But they have at least, you can only beat what's put in front of you to, use that cliche, or only beat what you're batting on, or anything like that. So I don't think we're learning that much. It's a decent bowling attack that the West Indies have got, but they also went through 7 bowlers today. So it's that's partly down to the way England batted and partly down to the conditions. So I think the jury's still out on that. It'll be interesting to see what England's bowlers get out of the track, though. But if there's anything extra tomorrow, I highly doubt it. Might take a bit more spin. There's some signs of some rough operating, even though the West Indies don't really have any left-handers to make the most of that. And although they were going around the wicket for a bit, so there's a chance there.
I think the pitch report from the Bajans, people who know the conditions, was that the pitches
Generally disappointing, wasn't it?
I know they tend to be two ways in Barbados. Either they're kind of up and downy from the beginning, and you're in for a low scoring thriller, like when I went to watch West Indies Sri Lanka there, and there were 18 wickets in a day. No, nobody could bat. Or it starts out quite flat, and you see the spinners come into it late in the day. I think the last first class match there, Barbados scored 500 batting first, and spinners did come into it a little bit later on.
Averages 25, I think there. So
there is a possibility. I think that Leach, there could be the Leach factor later in the match. We know about his bowling average. It's 84 in the first innings of a match and 18 in the final innings. So it could be set up quite well for him. I'd be surprised if there's no grass on it, so I'm not sure what's going to hold the surface together. I'd be surprised if it stayed as flat as it did in Antigua. And we've seen the Antigua wicket do that before. It isn't necessarily a characteristic of the Barbados wicket to start not bad, but start very flat, stay very flat. I would expect there to be some break-up through the days.
We could get a result.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you were going to speculate now, and then we'll move on to other bits. If you're going to speculate now, what do you reckon England's chances of winning this match are?
Well, they've put themselves in a pretty good position, haven't they? They can be pretty pleased with their work today. Good 8, 9 out of 10 for them. So, I mean, they'll be looking at minimum 400, I would have thought, and maybe having a crack tomorrow evening, late in the day, and see if what they can do. But it's going to be interesting with Fisher and Saqib and Moon. See. They're probably sat there today watching this, being like, "Why are we making our debuts here? Why can't we be at fucking Headingley?"
We didn't talk about this at all, did we? There are 2 England debuts, and so I suppose in a rare day where England bat, that's actually more interesting or rarer than England debuting 2 players in a match. I think it's that they haven't capitulated
a whole day,
and they've still got 7 more guys tomorrow. Tomorrow morning. It will be interesting for them. I mean, it couldn't have started off better. Don't think from their point of view, could it? England,
nice to have runs on the board.
They're going to even if it goes wrong tomorrow, they're still going to have 300 runs on the board, and we've seen the pitch be flat. So if they don't take wickets, they've already got a get out clause, haven't they? It's not like you get the ball and you're at Lords and it's the opposition is 70 for 1 at lunch and you're like, oh no, we've missed the good bit. Yeah. So that's right. Max, anything else from today's play? Anything from West Indies' point of view before we talk about Oz v Pakistan quickly?
The West Indies disappointing from them, I think. As difficult as it was today to bowl, it just drifted so much. They bowled well at first. They kept things very tight, and they made it difficult for England to score. Then it got to a point where England kind of refused runs. And once England started trying to score, they had no answer to it. And they didn't really try anything. There wasn't any intent on trying to keep things tight. It was all a bit too easy. The period where they went through a good 6, 7, 8 overs. Firstly with Alzari Joseph, then with Jaden Seals bowling round the wicket to the right-handers and trying to bang it in. And so obviously not getting anywhere.
I think they really missed
for just so easily getting on top of it and just playing just riskless pull shots out to the leg side boundary for singles and 2s, and they were just lacking.
I think they really missed someone like Shannon Gabriel, the angel Shannon Gabriel, to sweep in and.
But you need a bit of extra, don't you, to get something out of a pitch like that?
Yeah, just a little bit of a change of pace. Somebody that the opposition have to at least be aware of.
Yeah. And I suppose that's what Alzari Joseph's role would be in the side. He pushes 90. He got speeds up quite well in the first session, but he
sprays it all over the place
today. Yeah, he's just not on the money enough, and disappointing around for them, I think.
Right, Max, there was a pretty good test match this morning. When Ross and I talked about this on Sunday, obviously we talked about Pakistan v Australia here. I didn't give Pakistan much of a chance. Ross said that Pakistan were definitely still in the game. I suppose it's a case of Rostradamus, isn't it? And I need to be eating humble pie here, because what Ross has done is predicted one of the most monumental innings in, like, literally the history of Test cricket. Babar Azam's 196. It's the most runs by a Pakistani in a fourth innings. It's the longest a Pakistani's batted in the fourth innings. I think it's the most runs by a captain in a fourth innings, more than
the biggest partnership in a fourth innings between him and Abdullah Shafiq.
Yeah, it's edged Atherton's vigil against South Africa into second place in the standings, or in the hero stakes, Captain Knox stakes. It'll probably go down, won't it? As when all is said and done,
one of the great innings.
Well, I was going to think here from Babar Azam, he's going to go down as a legend of international cricket, not just Pakistan cricket here. This will be one of, like, the three innings that people say, oh, this is Babar Azam. You know, he could do this, 170 balls, and he could do this, 196 in 10 hours, 603 minutes he batted.
And there'll be twice as many people than normal that could say I was there, because it took 2 days.
It was pretty awesome, Max, wasn't it? And I think one of the all-time sort of grittiest get out of jail performances. It wasn't like one of those ones where you have a 1% chance and you manage to hold on. Number 11 and 10 bat for 2 hours or something like that. But the feats of concentration and the actual individual achievement here is just amazing.
10 hours, batting for 10 hours.
I think it was 603 minutes. Yeah,
603 minutes exactly. Yeah, 425 balls. And I just think about, I'm a bit, tired, bored after like 40 minutes maybe at the crease. Yeah. 603. It's a stunning performance. Abdullah Shafiq batted for 465 minutes, so that's not even far off. It was a pretty impressive, to say. Well, that's just extreme understatement, isn't it? It was a captain leading by example. It was, especially on the back of being rolled out for 148 in the first innings, to bat for 2 days as a team in the final inning is pretty much on. So what you can say is they've managed to, it's one of those games where the draw is a result, isn't it? The draw is a positive result.
Yeah.
People say, you talk to someone about Test cricket and like, a draw? What? How could it be a draw? It's like, well, this was a draw. This was a proper draw.
Yeah, it wouldn't. I mean, the sport wouldn't function as well. Did you see I think you have seen this because I shared it with you in the Ranji Trophy. The team that scored 1,000 runs. Yeah, scored 800 runs, bowled the other team out for 200. And we're like, we'll bat again.
What about Australia's?
You do need.
We talked about this with Ross. What was Australia's decision to bat again? What did you make of that?
It was stupid. It was stupid. We talked about this. Like, mathematically, it made no sense. But they bowled 53 overs against Pakistan to bowl them out. They had a 408 run lead. If they'd bowled again and Pakistan had batted literally as well as they could, Pakistan wouldn't have had enough time in the game to set up a declaration. Like, it literally, they had batted Pakistan out of the game already. There was no reason for them to waste that time. And actually,
it's cost them.
It has cost them. Yeah, there were points. There were large parts of the final day where Pakistan looked like the only team that actually could win it. They managed to drag it back, and Babar Azam went, and then Nathan Lyon took 2 in 2, didn't he? And it made it kind of interesting. And then Khawaja dropped a catch, and it was like, oh, has he dropped whatever the name of the trophy is? Probably the Inzamam Ponting Trophy or something like that. And he hadn't, because it didn't really matter that much. But
I've got what's the
what's it called?
The Crick Info thing up. So I'm just wondering if the name.
It got with about 5 overs left in the day. There was still this chance of somebody winning. I think, or maybe it was 7 overs. The Google had Australia with a 20-ish% chance of winning. So it was it's gone down to the wire there. 20% chance in sport that happens a lot, right? But it happens 20% of the time.
And I think get the Fs in the chat for Mitchell Swepson, 53.4 overs, 8 maidens, none for 156.
That wasn't great. I mean, that Khawaja dropped a catch off him as well. To be honest, I think that was there were a couple of things that I thought on the final day. I thought that they'd made a bad call bringing Swepson in. Just bowls. You only, but I mean, he only bowls 2 good balls and over, and they're not like worn balls. They're just like okay. Oh, it's like he's pitched that in the right area, and the batter has to defend it. There's 4 balls that are, you can leave that alone or pull it. I mean, Rizwan was hitting for 2 sixes in the last 10 overs. It was like there's no chance of Pakistan winning. The balls were that bad. He was just like, oh, well, I'll hit that into the stands.
This is the best shot to play to this delivery at the given time.
It was kind of bizarre that he was playing. So I think that was a mistake, and I think the non-declaration or the not choosing to make them follow on was bizarre. I think, but take nothing away from Babar Azam for what is a colossal achievement. He had a chance, a 10-1 chance, maybe less of being able to salvage anything for Pakistan. But Pakistan as a whole team had probably a 10% chance, and Babar Azam has delivered big time.
A funny old scorecard as well. Only 3 players scored double figures.
Yeah.
They scored 443.
Who was it who had the handy 9 off 10 balls when you were blocking out for the draw?
Sajid Khan, yeah. Oh, it's better than Fahim Ashraf's golden duck.
It got the slog sweep out. It was just like, what are you? What are you doing here? It was Benno Kadir is the name of the track. Did you tell me that and I ignored you?
No,
Benno Kadir. People in the chat.
ESPN's just got it listed as Australia to Pakistan, very unhelpfully. Benno Kadir trophy. Right.
England are also still in the Women's World Cup. They beat India last night, smashed them, vaporised them. So India and England are both in a little bit of danger there, because I think India still have to play Australia, who look pretty handy. And I think
that's what England are banking on, isn't it? Australia beating India. Australia just looking unstoppable, aren't they?
Yeah.
And sometimes in these tournaments, when someone starts like a train, like Pakistan did in the T20 Cup, the first 3-4 games, you look at them and who's going to beat them? They're too good. And you sometimes wonder if they've, just up front got it out of the way, all their good form, and at the back end they're in for an unexpected defeat. But you just don't see it with this Australia side, do you? You just can't see faltering, even if you buy into that rhetoric of starting too soon.
Yeah. Right, Max, I think we can nearly wrap up. I was going to have a look at the World Test Championship table here and try and work out what it means, because Australia and Pakistan are top 2, aren't they? Yeah, so draws and stuff.
4 points each,
but it's just so difficult to actually work out what results
what
mean.
Any of it means.
Yeah, and like for the table and what the upcoming fixtures are and who has to play who and whether they're home or away and all of that. That it's really hard to tell whether the top 2 are in a good position or not.
Are they? Is it still being done on?
It's percentage of points won. So Australia have got, as of today, they've won 71% of the points available, which seems like a lot. They've had Australia get a home Ashes, and that's a banker, isn't it? They need to have a think about some of the way they distribute points for things like that, because it's just obscene that Australia get to dismantle England and effectively walk straight into the final, whereas some teams have much more variable home conditions that make that quite difficult to do. South Africa would be one of them, probably. Even if they're playing well, you can beat them at home. Anyway, by the by, so Australia got 71%. Then Pakistan Pakistan to India 61%, or South Africa on 60%, India on 58%. No real clue what that the implications for the rest of the tournament
Yeah.
for them are. Don't
Well,
know how
India
many games they've got to play.
India have
it's-
played 12, and
Yes.
South Africa have played 5.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, then again, it's all about the number of series, isn't it? And the series are all different lengths. Series tend to be longer than everyone else's series.
Yes.
So, yeah, you basically, I'm going through the process that you've just been through
Yeah.
in trying to understand.
Like,
what on earth is going on.
I think it would just make it so much easier, to be honest, if the top 4 went through. Not easier necessarily, but just it would be. I would feel less
I'd
like
take
it was
semi-final.
completely bullshit, or like
Yeah.
made up, if the top 4 went through and they had a semi-final final. And it would also keep a few more teams interested, wouldn't it? I mean, I'm assuming here Australia are basically in the final, and I'm assuming that India are on 58% will be something they sort out because
Pretty solid.
they'll have two
to be-
pretty easy
yeah.
home series against
But, well,
whoever it is in the world.
All Pakistan and South Africa have to do is, lose a couple of tests in their next series, and they'll probably be plummeting down to 45-50% because they played 5 or 6 games. India's
Exactly.
58%. Yeah, it remains to be seen, but I think Australia will be at Lords. I assume it's at Lords again.
It will be at Lords for the first time, won't it? Because it wasn't last time.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna call it a day. A reminder: seriouscricket.co.uk. TCP22 is the code you want to use for cricket equipment to get yourself 10% off. You've got holes in your gloves, or you need to get a new back grip. I mean, this is the perfect time for a new
Well, you're
back
still
grip,
using a
isn't it?
size 6.
Or you've sort of worn out the soles and the spikes on your shoes. Or you're using a size 6. Or you're reading all these headlines about serious brain injuries and you're thinking maybe it's not very clever to bat in a cricket cap when I could have a helmet. Now is the time to sort that shit out. So go over to seriouscricket.co.uk, TCP22, 10% off on us, on the Cricket Podcast. Patreon.com/the Cricket Pod. If you want to give to the show directly, that's probably the number one way to support us. And at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Goodbye, Max.
Goodbye.